Welcome back. So this is who would win. Now I don't have my who would win list up today, but it wasn't actually hard to do. This is basically Jimmy Neutron and Dexter from Dexter's Lab. The battle of the boy geniuses, more or less. So let's just get started. Now, in terms of their physical stature, that's a little hard to pin down. Jimmy Neutron is 11 years old. He's got IQ about 210. Now, I couldn't find any height or just weight description, but if he's at 11 years old, he's short, they say, for his age, not including his hair. I guessed him around maybe 4 foot even, because most 11-year-olds these days, hell, I was 6 foot by the time I was 12, but I had a major growth spurt. Most teenage boys, or most 11-year-old boys, they stand roughly anywhere from high 4 foot range to the low 5 foot range, give or take. Puberty doesn't really kick in for the boys until maybe 11, 12 to 13. That's when the puberty really starts to kick in. But most boys will stand anywhere between maybe like 5, average, mind you, 5'7", maybe like 5'5", give or take. But so I imagine he's probably somewhere on the low 4 foot end, maybe like 4'2", but then I got an extra foot height for his hair. I don't really care about the weight. He's a kid, but he's a boy genius. He's a brilliant inventor, but he normally invents stuff that are beneficial to him, not necessarily the world. Same with Dexter, but the thing is, most of his inventions end up wreaking havoc on the town he lives in, Retroville, because he just overlooks a simple fact, or he's just blinded by his own little bit of ego, which he does. Both these guys have an ego on them. And he's just, now he's a good kid, he is, but he's kind of intolerant, a little, not aggressive, but a little arrogant and irritable towards people who aren't really his friends. But yeah, his inventions just seem to wreak havoc half the time in Retroville. And they're made for the most stupidest reasons, like making robots to pick up his pants, or self-picking up pants, or making a candy just to sell candy and, manipulate people. Or, causing snow just because he was tired of the heat. It's petty. It's very much petty reasons he makes these inventions. He's made a score of inventions. A lot of them have seemed to be candy-based. Like he makes gum that you use to breathe underwater, or instantly read a book, or candy that's, covers all flavors. Don't really know how that'd be useful in the fight. He has a time machine. He has that reversing machine. It's not necessarily a time machine per se, but actually, it is essentially a time machine. If you remember the episode of Jimmy Neutron, where he had this device that basically reversed time, going like basically like that, and then he accidentally gets set back in time. That was his time machine. He was basically able to change up time that way. He also has his hover car. His hover cars have always been a big part. He usually has, I think he has a laser inside his watch, I think. He also has a communicator in his watch. So I think that goes on in his technology. He also has his rocket ship. And they never do explain, that was a joke. That is like, how are we able to breathe in space, or, when there's an astronaut sea helmet? That's a good question. The answer is really fascinating. It's like, and how come it takes us minutes to get to the place when it usually takes our astronauts like, months on end to do it? It's like, another good question. It's never addressed. But he has a hypercube, which is like infinite storage. So possibly he has like a pocket dimension in there, which also may be a part of Goddard, which we'll get to Goddard in just a second. However, he's not perfect. He's actually he's not good with communication skills, really, because anytime he's overly explaining something, it just goes over people's head. Look, I got the lightsaber hands again. Wait a minute. Sorry. I like that. I enjoyed that effect. It was actually kind of like a cool little effect. There we go. Anywho, so he's got a lot of different little tech gadgets. I don't think he actually carries any actual weaponry on him, unless he's specifically invented it. But he does have Goddard. Now, Goddard essentially is a Swiss Army knife of, I can kick the crap out of you, but just have random stuff. He's gotten like hollow space in him, they say, but anything just comes out of him. So it's very possible, like the hypercube, it may have like a nanotechnology hyperdimensional effect in there, or a pocket dimensional effect in there, where it just stores stuff. So he's got like a hand, he's got lasers, he's got buzzsaws, he's got rocket boots, or rocket feet, more or less. He has a self-destruct and reassemble effect, which he used to beat a copycat robot at one point. So Goddard's actually, if you were to actually say bring Jimmy into combat with Goddard on his side, then you would. you would say that Goddard would be his trump card, really, because Goddard would be the more combat effective one. Granted, I believe Jimmy has used. Jimmy's also good at making stuff on the spot, because he's usually the one who has to fix his own problems. So when the pants happened, the self-replicating basically the pants became sentient, and were just taking over the town. He basically built a robot out of cleaning supplies to basically bring the pants under control, like he starched them or bleach and all that stuff. But yeah, Jimmy's not perfect. Jimmy's far from perfect, but he's a good kid and he's a smart individual. Then we get to Dexter. Now Dexter's really hard to figure out. We don't know his IQ, but we guess that his IQ is something definitely genius level, at the very least on level with Jimmy, if not maybe greater or maybe a little lower. So we'll just say for the sake of it's the same. However, his height and age I was not able to get. I know that at a minimum he's in elementary school, but he's genius. But he doesn't actually flaunt the fact. I mean, he flaunts it, but doesn't like. Jimmy got banned from science fairs because he's just so competitive with his genius. But Dexter's didn't. Dexter's just, he's a kid in school, and he just actually kind of seems to enjoy the school experience a bit. I mean, that's why he goes, because honestly, he's smart enough that he doesn't need homeschooling, or he doesn't need schooling really at all, in terms of, academics. In terms of social skills and knowing just basic stuff like the nature of the species called girl, or the idea of nature. He actually wasn't even aware of the name of the scientist who discovered DNA, is taught by Dee Dee, of all people. So he's young, he's still inexperienced, he doesn't have the aged wisdom yet. So he doesn't understand a bit more of the social cues of life. That being said, he's still a genius. He's, not being said, I also had to figure out how tall he was, because you really look at him in comparison to, say, everyone else. He looks almost like a foot tall, but he's probably not that small. I'm guessing he's like maybe 3 feet tall, maybe. If you were looking, he's a short kid. Let's not kid ourselves. He's a very short kid. But when you look at all he's accomplished, he has a time machine. His, I think, takes the form like a grandfather clock. He's got a combat robot. He's got nanobots. Unlike Jimmy, he actually will regularly carry weapons on him for certain situations, because he's dealt with more situations that require violence. Of the two, he's actually the more physically and violent prone. He has several different battle robots, like augmenting armors. He's got like the exoskeleton one, which he used in that dodgeball episode. He's used it a couple of times over. And then he has the Super Dexter one, which is still a short robot compared to maybe other robots, but it's still a giant fighting robot. And there's at one point he and Dee Dee were starting to mutate into monsters, and they were fighting, but Dee Dee ended up winning anyway. It's very sad. So then he's got his pet monkey, who is Monkey. A monkey is a superhero fighting monkey. He carries his trusty wrench. He carries a whole bunch of different scientific things on him, and he has so much access to scientific technology. But again, he's still like 3 foot tall with lacking social skills. He's also very emotionally driven, along with Jimmy. Jimmy's not quite as emotionally driven, being the fact that I think he's a bit more mature for his age. And I think Dexter's probably like 9 or 10. So either way, Jimmy's got a bit of an age advantage on him. But Dexter deals a bit more idiocy than and see, where Carl and Sheen are his friend. That's the thing. Dexter, we know he does have like 1 or 2 friends like in school. We see them, like he talks to one on the bus and stuff like that, and during the classic a couple times. But Jimmy actually has a bit more of a collective social group, which allows him to interact easier and learn better social cues. Whereas Jimmy, I'm going to go back do that sometime. Sorry, Dexter does not. Dexter's main interaction is with Dee Dee, the girl who constantly destroys his shit. Mandark, his arch rival. He's got one friend, I don't remember his name, but we see him a couple times. His parents, who seem like nice individuals, he loves his parents, and in the long run, he does love Dee Dee too. But yeah, when you break it down, that's Dexter. Dexter has his faults. Jimmy has his faults, but they're both boy geniuses. Now, how would a fight like this go down? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, one of them moves to the other's town. They get introduced to each other. Now, who do you honestly think would see the other as a rival in that? Because I'm going to be honest, I think Jimmy would see Dexter as more of a rival. He's a younger kid. I'm almost certain he's a younger kid who's possibly as smart, if not maybe smarter than him, whose lab is far more impressive than him. If you remember Dexter's lab, it's expansive inside this tiny house. So which God implies maybe like the multi-dimensional area or nanotechnology, something like that. Jimmy's got an impressive lab too for his age, but it's located underground and is located. He's even said it's covered with it's lined with like 3 feet of steel, so no voice could penetrate. And that's a heavily enforced lab, by the way. Probably survived nuclear fallout. But Jimmy, I think, would see, because Jimmy's dealt with more people like his little cousin, baby Herman, I think it was, or something like that, who was just as smart as him, possibly. And he was only 1.5 years old, I think they said. So he was literally a super genius at that age. Jimmy would not probably trust Dexter. So there might be a confrontation. Dexter would probably just be like, whatever. Because honestly, Dexter was like, hey, Mandark's cool originally. I want to show you off my lab. We can be buddies and science buddies and friends. And then Mandark's like, no, screw you. I'm better than you. Just stop. You fail, man. And then Dexter just threw DD at him, and then that was done. And then it wasn't done. You watch Dexter's Lab. You know, if you watch this, you know Dexter. Dexter's Lab is awesome, by the way. I always love Dexter's Lab. And I even like Jimmy Neutron, too. I actually did enjoy a good bit of Jimmy Neutron. But, yeah, so that would probably happen. And then Jimmy would probably just throw some sling back. Dexter would probably throw some sling back. Dexter would get offended more easily than Jimmy would. And then a fight would ensue. Now, Goddard would be available, because Goddard's probably going to join him. And Dexter would maybe throw like a laser blast or something like that. Something like that from maybe something he has on call. He also has a laser pen too. Or maybe a laser pen or something along those lines. Goddard would get involved. Goddard would be a bit of a challenge for Dexter to get around, to the point where he would probably get his exosuit going and smash Goddard, and Goddard would probably reassemble. I'm not going to get into a play-by-play of this fight, because here's the long term of things. Goddard would keep reassembling unless I think you destroy like his plasma brain, his ionic plasma brain. If you completely destroy it, which I think Dexter would eventually get to doing, or at least just contain Goddard. And then we break that down. When you look at these two, who's been the more violent prone? Who's been the more combat prone of the two of them? Who's actually gone into physical combat with multitudes of aliens, robots, or other things compared to the two of them? Yeah, and who's come out a lot of the time in those scenarios too? Dexter has. Dexter's the one who's actually gone out, built giant fighting robots, gone to fight individuals, come out on top at least half the time. Jimmy has not. Jimmy honestly is kind of a dunce in terms of geniuses. And when I say dunce in terms of geniuses, here's what I mean. He invents, Dexter does this too sometimes, but he invents things for petty reasons. He invents things like, okay, you know what? I don't want to go to school today, so I'm going to invent a time machine just so I can do that. Now, granted, Jimmy could maybe pull out his little time zone and go, but then Dexter is smart enough to granted, Dexter's hubris might get in the way. But eventually, I think his hubris would win out over Jimmy's little science, his little time machine, because he's eventually probably going to knock it away, and then Dexter's going to just beat the crap out of him. That's going to be it. Dexter's going to beat the crap out of him, because he's just going to physically wailing on him. Goddard's not going to be able to help him forever. And as I was saying, Jimmy makes it prepare hey, to fold your pants, or it's too hot outside, so let's make it snow for a little bit. Or, hey, Gene, I'm going to make you smarter for some reason. I'm going to be dumb because I want to know what it's like to be dumb. Dexter at least usually makes it, sometimes for a personal gain, but for better reasons than that. For the sake of science, not for the sake of petty all the time. And when you look at everything he's accomplished in comparison to Jimmy, who usually, half the time things are going on in Dexter's laboratory, if you notice, it's not usually Dexter's fault. 80% of the time, it's not his fault. There's precedent for it being Dexter's fault. He'll create something and it goes haywire, or DD. He creates something and DD kind of ruins it a little bit. But overall, Jimmy is the cause for almost 95 to 100% of the things that go on in the show. So when you look at it, I chose this thinking it might be closer, but now that I'm doing this video, I'm like, there's no real contest. Dexter's going to win in a fight. Now, granted, they're not going to kill each other. They're kids, but Dexter's gonna win in a fight. Then Jimmy will be like, oh my God, it's like, now you know that science will always prevail, or however, it's like some weird Russian accent that he has. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. This is going to be one of those rare instances where I say that Dexter wins 100% of the time. I mean, let me think about that real quick. Does Jimmy stand any chance of winning? I mean, physically, he's probably stronger than Dexter. But as I said, Jimmy's not one for physical violence usually. I can't really recall most of the time where Jimmy's ever really gotten into physical violence. That being said, I mean, he could also build a little robot to scrap with Jimmy as well. But Dexter's is not pieced together from scrap. Dexter's is actually far more, That's the thing. Jimmy usually pieces his stuff from like scrap or just what he's got lying around, or if he can get some decent equipment. Dexter's actually usually got some high grade stuff. Now, granted, we've seen them kind of get like kind of fall into the way over years from lack of maintenance and stuff, but still. It goes to show that Jimmy's just kind of this. Jimmy is Tony Stark in Iron Man 3. He's building this stuff from scrap without much to go with, so he's doing the best he can with what he has. Whereas Dexter somehow has access to a lot of stuff. Somehow. We don't actually know how he has access to a lot of this stuff, but he does. So that's my thoughts. Jimmy's going to win probably 100% of this. There's probably a scenario where Jimmy wins somehow, but I can't think of it right now. Maybe Goddard just beats the crap out of Dexter. Dexter's also pretty durable, too. If you notice, Dexter's probably taking a lot of crap and keep taking. Granted, he eventually gets beaten down. But for a little 9-year-old kid, he can take a lot of abuse. So yeah, overall, it's got to be Dexter for Dexter's Laboratory on this. Dexter wins 100% of the time. That's kind of how I see it for that one. But tell me what you think about this. I'm curious, because if you can think of something other than what I mentioned, I would like to hear it just to maybe reevaluate my answer. Because I might do that if I have new information present to me. But thanks for watching then. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review at some point. If you have an idea for who would win, by the way, let me know. Put that in the comments below too. I will put that under consideration and possibly do it in another video. I got one more video to do, so thank you, and I'll see you in just a second.